then the tongue should be lightly touching the back of the two front teeth, kind of where it meets the roof of the mouth, and that connects the front and the back lines of energy. And then allow your eyes, the muscles around your eyes to relax. Bring your attention to your breath. Now turn your attention to your physical body. You're looking for the me in the physical body. Say your name in quotes, it helps. And look for that in your body. You might intellectually dismiss that idea, but you normally see your body as you, so just check. We rarely check. Now check to see if you are your feelings, the second heat. We make all of our decisions based on these feelings. Look for the me in your feelings. Then go to the ability to discriminate, to tell the difference between objects. Something is red, something is blue. This one is more subtle than feeling. It seems like it's there all the time. So you have to spend a little more time there. Let's move on to other factors. This is the fourth heat. And you can, there's so many, you can pick will. Let's look at our will. Are you this will? Check to see if you awareness is ripening and dying moment to moment. It doesn't depend on you, but you think it's you. Slowly come back to the room. So obviously we didn't spend enough time on that meditation. And when you do this meditation at home, you'll spend a lot more time, and then you can even focus on one heap at a time. Try not to jump to awareness right away, because like I said before, we believe we are our physical bodies, which is why we get annoyed when somebody bumps into us, right? We identify it as me, so we protect the me. So we should spend time on each one. And this is like the outline of what Master Kamal Shila recommends we meditate on, right? In Bok Jinpa II, I don't know if you remember this, but at the end of Bok Jinpa II, it was like kind of given to us that this is how we meditate on emptiness. We first look at outer objects, and we establish that there's no self-existence to outer objects. Then we turn our awareness towards the self and what we believe to be the self. And we first look for the me in the physical form. Then we, go through the analysis with it. Take your time. See, like, if I am my brain, which is what most people think, just go as deeply into that as you can. Analyze what part of the brain am I then? Or you could even say, if the me is in the brain, the me has to be one or it has to be many, and then you can kind of like go use whatever analysis you want to and break it down and look. And then when you get to awareness, that seems to be the one that we think, like when I identify myself as the same me as that picture I see of myself when I'm 3 years old. And that's the me that I believe truly exists. And that through that whole period of time was this awareness. So the awareness is me, and that's kind of like what we cling to, this feeling of like a watcher, right? It's what we believe has some kind of inherent quality. So we have to take a lot of time with awareness and see how does awareness exist? Awareness has to do with the thing that it's aware of, right? And it's what awareness is perceiving is manifesting in many forms, right? So right away that gives us a hint, like the relationship it has between outer objects gives us a hint of how it's empty, right? So use that and see, like, awareness must be, it can't be one and it can't be many, but it can't be one because it's manifesting as many things, right? And then it can't be many because what is many? Many is one thing. It's like that could be one way that you go about looking at it. There are many ways to analyze awareness. So it'll be interesting to see how you try in your meditation journey. So I guess Ori already talked about method and wisdom a little bit, right? Method and wisdom. So why do we need wisdom to do bodhisattva activities?
Otherwise, it's quite activity, not generating any virtue.
Yeah, it's not. Well, you're generating some virtue. Doing a good deed will yield a good result, but it's not powerful. It's probably not going to bring a result that you'll see anytime soon. And then it's not a pure activity. It's not a bodhisattva activity unless there's wisdom. Because why? It just generates more suffering. It's just going to bring you a result that will run out. And Lama Lissette used this example of, she had a glass of water and she said, you know, if you're just using method and you're going to give somebody a glass of water, that's one thing, right? I'm giving you a glass of water. But if you have wisdom, that water, you know, has no inherent quality of being wet and flowing. It's not water by itself. You put water onto that object. So why not have this cup be full of amrita, of deathless nectar? And when I hand you this deathless nectar, that's like a completely other kind of karma, right? A very like limitless kind of karma. And everything I do can have that kind of power. Why not? Because everything is lacking inherent qualities, right? So if I have wisdom, imagine the kind of world that I can create really quickly, you know? And then if you don't have wisdom and you're trying to, you know, I'm giving you nectar, but I don't really understand the emptiness part of it, it's just pretend. And it's also not very powerful. So that's why it's so important to really understand the wisdom side. And then so using method and wisdom, a bodhisattva is walking through that world kind of realizing, knowing all the time that they're reshaping their reality, that they're reshaping the illusion, and they're doing it with their intention, right? Intention is the driving force behind everything. So when I hand you that amrita, my intention is always to bring you to enlightenment, to bring myself to enlightenment. You know, so it's always imbued with the wish. And then always understanding that, yeah, it's an illusion, and because it's an illusion, that's how it's functioning. And we always keep saying that because we never want to fall off the cliff of nihilism. That's the middle way, that because it's empty, it can work, right? So we're on to the fifth preliminary, right? Which is purifying and collecting. Collecting merit and removing obstacles. So we started with bringing our lama in front of us. We look into their eyes. We we see them not in an ordinary form. Then we generate a sense of gratitude for them. We get this kind of emotion in our heart. We feel this gratitude for them. We think of their good qualities, which is like a way of prostrating mentally to them, calling their good qualities. And doing that is a very powerful way of seeing the qualities in yourself. So if you can target your daily meditations to whatever quality you're working on gaining yourself. Like you want to see yourself that day as being very patient, then sit and think about the patient, quality of your lama. And then once you get this kind of gratitude, remember to recall their emptiness. And we said before that the preliminaries are for what?
Prepare your mind and collect virtue.
Yeah, right, to collect enough virtue to be able to do the analysis. So it's really cool the way that the preliminaries are designed. They have within them the 4 ways of making karma more powerful and ripen more quickly. Do you guys know what the 4 ways of ripening karma quickly are? This is I think it's from ACI 1. No, 5. ACI 5. The 4 powers? No, that comes later. Oh yeah, you're talking about the 4 qualities. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, so the first one is that it's like the object that you're doing the action towards should be a powerful object. Right? Oh, you're thinking of the 4 powers. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute actually. So the first is, that it uses the lama, because the lama is this powerful object. So 1, it should be a powerful object. And then 2, it has to have a powerful intention. So it makes a karma really strong if you have a strong emotion behind the action that you're doing. So it's like a worse karmic seed if you're really, really angry or hateful when you do an action, right? And then the converse of that is if you're really, really full of this emotion, this like wish in your heart, then your preliminaries are much stronger. And then third, you have to have completed the action, right? And then fourth is rejoicing. So that, when you do a good deed and you rejoice over it, you just like snowball that karma, the power of that karma. And all those things are in the preliminaries. So then after you do your, after you've seen the Lama and you feel grateful for the Lama, you think of their emptiness, then you would make offerings, right? And it comes kind of like as a natural progression of feeling grateful towards them, right? Anytime you kind of really get that gratitude and love in your heart, you just want to give everything, right? And you know that you've probably had, if you've sat before and you're just not feeling it, then the offerings are kind of stale, right? But the more like fresh you are, the offerings are like these beautiful offerings. And then Master Kamalashila in this reading talks about, the next reading talks about the prayer of Samantra Bhadra. And this is like this great yogi who was spoken of by Lord Buddha, and he was known for being like the king of making offerings. So he's known for this like visual that we get of like a sky full of flowers, right? Where there's in each flower a bodhisattva comes out of the flower and offers another flower. So it's like this infinite sky of flowers. And the whole reason that Master Kamalashila gives it to us is because he's just shown us that whole proof he went through about imagined mental images and mental objects that are mental images. And the reason he was talking about that is because he was showing us that imagined mental images are just as strong. So after he was presenting that, he was saying, so please use that in your preliminaries, use that in your meditations, because that's how you're going to create your paradise. Because those mental images have just as much power. It's like, take it to the ultimate, make it limitless, So this is what's the flow of the preliminaries up to now? What's the first one? Yeah, you cleaned your room because you're saying, I know you're there, please come. And then what's the second preliminary? Yeah, and then second is you go for refuge, right? So you recall karma and emptiness, and then you see your lama, and then you're grateful for your lama. You see their emptiness, and you make offerings. And then next is you purify. So just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So purifying your obstacles, this is when you see your lama, and after you kind of went over their good qualities, it kind of is like a mirror to your own mind, and you see what you might be lacking. And if you're carrying anything that you regret, that's when you would be purifying it. You'd be telling your lama about what you want to purify at this point. So you kind of, you pick one thing, and you confess it to your lama, you tell them about it. So this is what John was talking about, the 4 powers. This is when you would do the 4 powers. So everybody knows the 4 powers? No? Kind of? No? Okay. So the 4 powers first is refuge. And you've already gone for refuge. Refuge is essentially recalling emptiness and karma, because that's your greatest refuge. The reason that you recall emptiness and karma when you're thinking of an obstacle to purify is because if you understand that that obstacle is empty, then you know it can be changed. And that's the whole point of doing the 4 powers. Right? So first is refuge, then the second power, which is really the most important one to do in your preliminaries and make it strong, is regret. And this is not to be confused with guilt. We always say this, right? This is not about getting down on yourself or feeling like you're a bad person. It's really intelligence of an educated Buddhist. Like, you know how cause and effect works. You know that it is creating your world, and you know you're holding on to this thing and it's going to have a result, and you're like, oh, that was stupid. You know, so regret is kind of like this understanding, this like seed in your mind that sees that that's the kind of mental image that you don't want of yourself anymore. And the interesting thing about this is the 4 powers in general is that it's a proactive thing. It's like it keeps you from being whiny, and it keeps you from being passive. It's just like it forces you to be productive about your negative seeds, right? Then the third one is the antidote. So this is like you make some plan of attack, you know, to correct that negative karma that you did. It can be a mental thing, can be an action, can be something you say. The most powerful antidote is understanding emptiness. Then the 4th power is restraint. So you're making a deal with your Lama about how long you can go without doing this thing again. And you know, they say, like, even if you say to your Lama, like, for the next 5 minutes I won't get angry at my boss, that's great. That's fine. Or if you know, you're gonna see your boss the next morning when you get into work, I won't yell at my boss until I get to work. That's fine too. Just something, you know? Just do something. And then eventually it grows and you can do more and more.
I'll take tomorrow off.
It's important to do this part, this purifying part, because if you have some kind of block, if you have something you're holding on to, you won't be able to do the analysis. Your mind will be foggy. So if you do this part well, things will open up more in your meditation. And especially our teachers advised us that if you're teaching, then you need to do purifying every day. And even kind of a Vajrasattva meditation is good, like a really strong purifying, because if you're blocked, the lineage will not come through your mouth. And just, you know, to think about how the 4 powers are, you know, also pointing us towards understanding that those mental afflictions are not us. You know, I'm using this method to clear away this affliction. That means that that affliction is not inherent in me. I understand that I'm concocting a whole story about who I think I am, and I'm holding on to these mental afflictions as though they're me. Right? If you start to really work on the mental afflictions, you start to see, like, wow, I really grasp onto these mental afflictions for some reason. Maybe it's because they're familiar to me and they help me have a sense of me. But at a certain point, you just get sick of having them, and you work to get rid of them. And you can get rid of all of them. No problem, right? No problem. I think that's all. So the next class is our last class, right?
I guess so.
You guys doing okay? Do you have any questions?
So next class.
Monday we'll do it. how we give back. We'll have a little bin at the Three Jewels here.
Or I could cook dinner for everyone and they could come over to my house and I could feed them.
Yeah, we should do
We could
something.
rejoice.
Yeah. Remember you said we about the,
Yeah, I like that idea.
yeah.
Francis.
Thank you for teaching.
Thank you.
Please keep teaching.
Thanks for coming on a Saturday.
And live a long time.